I'm feeling good. I'm feeling, the summer's coming up. I'm almost done with finals. Things are going good. But I feel that right now. And I'm going to say this week was kind of a couple of ups and downs. And I'm going to tell you some stories and some things that I have learned from this week. From self-reflecting rather than going off of instinct, off of knee-jerk reactions. My roommate wakes up early. Like really early. Like 5 a.m. in the morning early. And I had a test both Thursday and Friday. So I went to bed a little late Wednesday night, if I'm being honest. I went to bed a little later than usual. And I was hoping I wouldn't hear him when I woke up. So I'm laying in bed. I hear him moving around a little bit. I hear a little bit of noise. I'm like, all right, maybe he'll stop. Maybe he'll leave the room. He's probably going to go to the gym or something. And he still was moving around, and I saw him sit down. I heard him click his water bottle, start drinking out of his water bottle. And I started getting a little annoyed. I was like, when is this guy going to leave? Maybe I should just calm down a little bit. He's going to leave soon. There's no point in getting myself worked up, and then he's going to leave. And he didn't leave. He kept stretching, all this stuff. I'm like, okay, it's been a little bit of time now. Let me see what time it is. Maybe it's almost 7 o'clock. That's why he hasn't left the room yet, because that's usually when I get up. I checked my watch, and it was 5:50 in the morning. At this point, I'm trying not to indicate that I'm awake and bothered from this, because I think if he thinks I'm awake, then he will make more noise, unfortunately. But once I saw the time, I got really mad. And if it were somebody else, maybe I would have been a little bit more aggressive. But since this is my roommate, and since we're only going to be roommates for a couple more days, I was like, okay, I've got a decision to make right here. I could either get really angry at him, or I could ask him nicely if he could leave and do this in a different room. So I said, hey, John, can you, or I said, hey, insert name here, can you go into a different room? Because I'm trying to sleep. Can you stretch in a different room? And he said yes, and he left. But I was still so angry. And I struggled to fall back asleep because I was so angry at him waking me up and messing up my routine. And then I thought, sure, it would be easier to live alone. But there are going to be times when I'm going to have to live with people. It's just a fact of life. I think the message nowadays has been too much, don't worry, you're not the problem. The external circumstances are. In reality, sure, maybe the external circumstances are bad in the moment, but that doesn't mean that the person's bad. He's a great roommate. He's a great person. Sure, we all have flaws. That's just how we are as humans. Sure, he's going to do things that annoy me. I'm going to do things that annoy him. Overreacting is what creates the bad situation. So it doesn't mean that we have to eliminate everybody to have a good night's sleep. I have to adapt to the scenario because most of the time I can't eliminate it. I have to find ways to fix it internally, not to get so worked up. I realize most people would have fallen asleep, not gotten angry. So it's my problem, not his problem. Sure, he wakes up early, but it's my problem that I get so worked up that I can't fall back asleep once he leaves. I have to address that. Learn not to get so angry, so stressed out. There will be stressors, and I have to learn to adapt and control to these stressors. There's a difference between treating yourself as the victim versus taking responsibility, not getting mad at their reaction, or having a negative reaction yourself. Me getting mad comes from an ego place. How dare you interrupt my space, my routine, my needs? Went to bed early the next day. So I learned this, right? I wake up, I'm tired. I have a test that day. I take some caffeine, chocolate to get my mind working. I was still a little annoyed about the whole situation, but I was like, all right, whatever. I did pretty well on the test, I think. And I was like, okay, we have a test the next day because we had 2 tests. We had one on Thursday, one on Friday. This was Thursday. And I was like, all right, since we know he's going to wake up at 5, let's pretend that we're him and we're going to go to bed around the same time. Because if he's going to wake me up, then that means I have to go to bed earlier if I want to get enough sleep. So I go to bed really early. I stop doing everything at 10 and I go to bed. And when I woke up and I checked my watch, I had the best sleep score that I've ever had. 99. And so I was getting worked up, getting all angry about the situation. And in the moment, I was really mad. And if I had let those emotions of anger, of frustration, because I didn't get enough sleep, overcome me, and had I burst out, I wouldn't have learned the lesson of how to adapt, of how to see that this is a problem, see that I can fix the problem myself. I can do things myself to adjust to what the problem is. And also see that I get the best sleep score I've ever had. Just proves that there's more things in my control from what I could do. And I had to just see it in a different way. And I've had this happen plenty of times, and I guess I just didn't apply it to this type of emotional situation. Because I ran track for so many years, 4 years of high school, all 3 seasons, so 12 seasons total, cross-country, indoor track, outdoor track, and I got injured so many times. And it took me to senior year to figure out what was wrong, and I'm still working on it, why I kept getting shin splints. And I found out it was because my ankles were weak, and they weren't flexible. I had no balance, and maybe I was doing a little bit too much training. I was overtraining. I was running too hard, and I had to do easier runs, and my form was off. My cadence was off. So there was a lot of mechanical things, and then stressors and sleep, and I'm sure a lot of other things piled up, leading me to get injured so much. And so I've now learned a little bit more of a balanced training. I'm going to work on strengthening my ankles. I'm going to work on strengthening my whole lower legs. I'm going to work on form. I'm taking easier runs. And so far, it's been working pretty well. Now, it's not to say I figured it out. To say that would be ignorant. I'm going to continue to find things that I can work on and critique and improve for my running. But instead of getting mad and being like, oh, my genetics are awful, why do I keep getting shin splints? This is so annoying. Getting like mad at the world, victimizing myself. I was like, okay, I get injuries. How can we not get injured? There's got to be a way. And I searched up a bunch of YouTube videos and I figured it out. Figured out how to strengthen my shins, how to strengthen my ankles, how to get them more flexible, how to run properly, what to practice, what to implement, what to stop doing. And I didn't use genetics as an excuse to not get better. So that's one way I've implemented that type of mentality into my life. And I've got to be able to transfer that mentality over to other areas, like I said, like with the situation with my roommate. And you get all these thoughts in your head. I think it's thoughts of doubt, thoughts of taking a risk, thoughts of pursuing different things, right? It's all this internal battle, which is the general theme of today. And I heard on a podcast recently Theo Vaughn interviewing with Ben Affleck. It's a really good podcast. Recommend you guys watching that. But Theo Vaughn says, it feels like there's a crowd of people in me. Now, he said it as a joke, but that idea was very interesting to me. A crowd of people in me. Because there's a bunch of different voices in your head telling you what to do, what not to do. You have ones that want to go for the instant gratification, other ones that have long-term goals that get mad at you for doing that. There's this constant battle between yourself. And I thought of this idea. You know how you kill the crowd in your mind? You just start to perform. And at the start, it will be noisy, right? People won't be paying attention. You'll be on stage and everybody will be laughing, they'll be doing whatever. They won't be paying attention. But some will start to watch. And slowly, you will win the audience over. Until you're so good that they get silent and watch in awe. And I think if I can apply that mentality of just action, of just doing it, ignoring these thoughts and just doing it until eventually the crowd in my head silences and just watches in awe, recognizing that I'm not going to stop and is impressed by what I have done. Pushing past what I even believe I can do possible by just failing over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, and learning that if I can fail more than everybody else, I can get better than everybody else. I also need to stop making these assumptions. Just start asking questions and ignoring the thoughts in my head about what people think about me. I keep making these assumptions, right? Oh, he should know not to make noise while I'm sleeping. Or this person should know this. This person should know that. No. Or this person wouldn't like me because they're this type of person. Or this person is into this because of the way they look. No, that's not. I gotta stop making assumptions. Because if I just take the risk and ask, you don't even know if these thoughts are true until you do the thing. Ask the question, do the action, ask the girl out. Either you were wrong or you were right. But at that point, it doesn't matter because what's done is done. And hopefully, after repeating this, you learn not to care about the outcome. Just enjoying that you took the risk and are on that adrenaline of risk. And this mentality of working hard, of not caring, of focusing on yourself, not making assumptions, not trying to fit in, the internal dialogue, working on that so it works in your favor. I think I've taken in so many things from people that I started to think it was my mindset when it was really their voices conquering my brain. And I felt like I was falling behind everybody else. Like these people were getting stronger, they were growing, they were getting taller. I mean, I can't control that, genetics. But people were getting taller, they were getting stronger, hitting the gym. Felt like I was staying kind of the same. And I realized, that's because I was so focused on everybody else. And they were doing their own thing. I was the kid that would organize all the friend group stuff because I knew everybody personally, right? I would ask them questions. What are they doing? And I think that's a good skill. I think it's a really good skill. But if that's all you do, then you don't have time to be your own person. I was more interested in hearing about them than telling them about me. Because I'm like, my life's not that interesting. Make it interesting. Why don't I make it interesting? Here's another scenario that I had where I was angry at the situation. But it ended up being a good thing for me. I was playing volleyball with my friends. And I hadn't played in a while. I was like, alright, sure, I'll get in. We were playing. The sand wasn't... We were playing. The sand wasn't, great. And I got my toe into the sand, and it curled like this way. Hurt at the moment. I was like, oh, my foot. But I was like, whatever, we'll keep playing. Played probably for another hour. Then went and played some basketball after dinner. And then when I went back into my room and saw my toe, it was all bruised and swollen. And I was like, I was mad because I had been training for a half marathon. Training was going good. I just got back into training from being sick, and I was like, okay, good. And then this happens, and now I'm like, okay, great. Now I can't train again. I was so mad that I played volleyball. I was like, okay, I'm going to be out for like a week at least with this injury because it's swollen. I couldn't walk. The next day I couldn't walk with it. And then it slowly started to heal. And after like 4 days, I was able to run again. And I was like, that's weird. It healed really quickly. And it was honestly, I think, a good rest because I went from trading like nothing to doing, I think it was around 15 miles that week. And I think my legs needed a little bit of a rest. And then I just did 22 miles this week. So my training has been going good. Foot thing recovered pretty quickly. And I now learned when I'm playing volleyball, just wear my shoes. Because it's going to be harder to jam your foot if you're wearing regular shoes. And that's what I did yesterday, and that's what I did today, and I had a great time. And so it's through these pain, through the frustration, through the annoyance is when you learn, okay, it's either do I sit in this pain or do I find a solution? And finding a solution, in the moment it sucks, the problem sucks. But afterwards you learn how to adapt and course correct. I've learned to do ankle mobility, ankle stretching, ankle stability. I've learned to train my form, my cadence. I learned to go to bed earlier since my roommate wakes up really early. I've learned to wear shoes when I'm playing volleyball. And I've learned to just act. Shut the internal thoughts, the internal voices in my head off, and just act. Because I know what the right thing is, alright? But sometimes I might not have the energy to do the right thing, and so there'll be voices trying to lead me off and lead me to a different path. And that's where I course correct. That's where I find a different solution. And I think that's the way I've grown the most in college. Now that it's almost the end of my second semester here, full year at college, freshman year of college, I think the way I've grown the most is being able to control my emotions a little bit better because I got comfortable with the friends I had at home. So I knew if I overreacted, it was fine. They wouldn't like get mad at me or leave, or be like, oh, we don't want to hang out with this kid anymore. And I had my twin brother there too. So I was so used to just, immature stuff. And then I go here, everybody's new. So I have to be nice to everybody. I can't be mean. I can't snap if I'm not feeling great. And it's reinforced that idea that, no, that's not the way you should be acting, Jason. You should not be snapping. You should not be getting mad if you're not feeling great and taking out other people. That's stupid. That's stupid, right? That's stupid that I've just learned that now. But it's an important thing I found out. It sounds really dumb, but it is. And internally, the thoughts in my head, all of that, being able to set boundaries, learning to say no, because my friends here really want me to hang out, and they're always here. Like at home, I was able to go home, and my friends were at their home, and it was more of a divide. Here, they could literally walk up the stairs and knock on my door. And so it's been harder for me, but I've learned to set boundaries, to say no. Have them miss me a little bit. Have them miss me while I'm working, while I'm doing the things I need to do. And also set that balance on the weekends. Play some volleyball, go in the game room, hang out with them. And that's what I've learned from being here in college. It's through these little moments of reflection and of emotion that you learn who you are and who you want to be. And to that, I'm grateful for college. All right, now I've got a final on Monday. It's Saturday. So I'm going to start studying for that. But thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. If you made it all the way to the end, definitely consider subscribing and liking this video. And I will see you next week for another podcast episode. Thank you.